The stars above Solace 9 were cold and silent, like eyes watching a grave. Commander Jackson Rowe stood at the front of the cockpit, hands gripping the rail as the dropship shuddered through the thin atmosphere. Below them was nothing but ash and broken towers, all that remained of a once thriving colony world. Behind him, the crew prepared for descent. Engineer Talia Vex checked her gear with quiet focus, while Kieran Miles tapped nervously on his datapad. Captain Dane Reyes, ever the soldier, simply stared out the window, hand resting near his holster. "We're coming in hot," the pilot warned over comms. Still no response to hails. Jackson nodded. "Keep scanning. We need answers." 3 years ago, Solace 9 had gone dark. One moment, the colony was reporting routine expansion. The next, silence. No distress call, no wreckage. Just gone. It wasn't war. No alien fleets had been spotted. No signs of attack. It was as if the entire planet had forgotten itself. Now a signal had returned. A single repeating message had begun broadcasting again from beneath the surface. "I came for you." That was why they were here. To find the source. To find survivors, if any still lived. The dropship landed with a soft thud, kicking up dust and debris. The ramp lowered, revealing a world frozen in time. Trees stood blackened but upright. Buildings leaned like tired giants. And not a sound stirred. Jackson led the team forward, boots crunching over brittle ground. The air was breathable, barely, and the scanners showed no life signs. But something was off. "This place," Talia whispered. "It feels like it's waiting." They reached what had once been the central research facility. Half buried in rubble, its entrance was sealed by fallen beams. With effort, they cleared a path and slipped inside. The interior was dim, lit only by flickering emergency lights. Dust hung thick in the air. Files were scattered, chairs overturned. Whatever had happened, it hadn't been peaceful. Kieran tapped his scanner. "Signal is coming from below us, stronger now." They found an elevator shaft blocked by debris, but a side hatch opened with minimal effort. A long stairwell spiraled into darkness. Lights on, weapons ready, they descended. The deeper they went, the colder it got. Humidity faded. Time seemed to slow. Then, at the bottom, they found it. A small chamber with a single terminal blinking. Softly, Kieran approached. "This is the source." He tapped a few keys. The screen flickered, then played the message again. Clearer than before. "I came for you." Same voice, same words. But this time, Jackson noticed something. That voice, Talia, frowned. "You know it?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. Because he did. It was familiar. Too familiar. Then a sound behind them. Soft. Barefoot. Like footsteps on stone. They turned. In the shadows stood a woman. She wore torn clothes. Her skin was pale, almost glowing. Her hair was matted, and her eyes, wide and full of something between fear and hope, locked onto Jackson. "Jackson," she whispered. His breath caught. No. It couldn't be. "Lyra," he said. Everyone turned to him. "You know her?" Reyes asked. Jackson stepped forward slowly. She was listed as missing, presumed dead, 3 years ago. The woman took a shaky step closer. "I wasn't lost," she said. "I was taken." Her voice trembled, but her words were strong. "I remember everything. I remember what happened to this place. And I remember why I came back." Jackson's heart pounded. "What are you?" he asked. She smiled. A small, sad thing. "I'm not sure anymore," she admitted. "But I'm still me. And I came for you." Silence filled the room. Kieran looked at the others. "We should get her topside. Get her checked out." Reyes shook his head. "Or we should lock this place down if she's connected to what happened." Lyra held up a hand. "I can help you understand, but first you have to believe me." Jackson looked into her eyes. Eyes that had seen things none of them could imagine, and he believed her. I do, he said. Outside, the wind howled through the ruins. Something had awakened, and Lyra had come home. Back aboard the Endeavor, Lyra sat quietly in the medbay. Her skin glowed faintly under the scanner's light. Talia Vex stood nearby, eyes wide as data scrolled across the screen. This can't be right, she muttered. Jackson leaned over her shoulder. What is it? Talia shook her head. Her DNA, it's not fully human. Some parts match old Earth records, but others don't belong to any known species. Kieran Miles entered with a datapad in hand. I ran her voice through every archive we have. Same result. She was listed as missing after Solace 9 went dark. But this woman, she's changed. Lyra looked up. Her voice was calm. I didn't change. I survived. Jackson stepped closer. Tell us what happened. She took a breath. The night it started, there was no warning. One moment we were alive. The next, something touched our minds. Everyone listened closely. It wasn't like war. It wasn't like invasion. It came silently. Not weapons, not ships, something else. It made people forget who they were. First small things, names, places, then bigger ones, faces, feelings, love, hope. Kieran frowned. You're saying they just stopped being themselves? Lyra nodded. Until nothing was left. Until the colony forgot it ever existed. Talia crossed her arms. And you? How did you survive that? Lyra looked down at her hands. Because they chose me. Silence filled the room. They needed a bridge, she said. A way to understand humans. So they took me. They put pieces of themselves inside me. And for a time, I became something else. Jackson's jaw tightened. And now? She met his eyes. Now I remember who I am. And I came back to stop it from happening again. Captain Reyes, standing near the door, finally spoke. If this thing can erase people like that, then why come back here? Why return to the place where it all began? Lyra's voice was soft. Because this is where it will start again. Just then the ship's alarms blared. Unidentified energy spike below deck. The pilot called over comms. They rushed to the control room. On the monitor, deep scans showed a pulse coming from the same chamber where Lyra had been found. Kieran tapped the screen. It's not natural, it's repeating like a signal. Talia frowned. But who would it be calling? Lyra stood still, eyes closed. Then she whispered, Not who. What? Jackson turned to her. Explain. She opened her eyes. The Veilborn are not gone. They sleep beneath the surface, waiting, watching. They left part of themselves behind and waiting for a sign. Kieran looked horrified. Like a beacon. Lyra nodded. My return woke them. Reyes moved to the intercom. All hands, seal all lower decks. We may have a threat reactivating. Below us. Jackson stared at Lyra. If they're waking up, how do we stop them? She hesitated. There's a way, but it will cost us. Talia folded her arms. We don't even know if we can trust you. Lyra looked at Jackson, then asked me something only Lyra Kale would know. He studied her face. Then he asked softly, What was the last thing I said to you before you disappeared? She smiled, a real warm smile. You told me to stay safe, and that one day you'd find me. His breath caught. He believed her. Talia saw it. Kieran too. Even Reyes seemed shaken. Then the lights flickered. A low hum vibrated through the floor. Kieran checked his scanner. Energy levels spiking again. Fast. Lyra's eyes darkened. They know I'm awake. Jackson stepped forward. Then we move. Now. They gathered their gear and prepared to descend again. This time, not to explore, but to fight. As they walked toward the shuttle bay, Talia stayed close to Lyra. You really want to help us? She asked. Lyra nodded. I didn't come all this way just to watch my people disappear again. Talia gave a small smile. Then welcome back. Lyra looked out at the ruins beyond the ship. I never left. Above them, the sky grew darker. Something ancient was waking, and humanity was ready. The team descended once more into the ruins beneath Solace 9. Dust hung thick in the air, disturbed only by their boots and the soft hum of their gear. Lyra led the way, her steps sure even in the darkness. Jackson stayed close behind her. You said they put something inside you, he said quietly. What was it? Lyra didn't stop walking. They called themselves the Veilborn. They don't think like us, don't feel like us. They are ideas given shape, memories without a body. Talia frowned. So they're not alive? Like ghosts? Lyra shook her head. They live in thought, in memory. They feed on meaning, not flesh, not blood, but belief, purpose, identity. Kiran looked uneasy. So if they take your memories, they take you, Lyra finished, piece by piece, until nothing remains but an empty shell. Captain Reyes tightened his grip on his weapon. Then how did you survive it? Lyra paused at a broken door. Her hand hovered over the panel before she spoke. Because I remembered love. She pressed the button. With a groan, the door slid open. Inside was a long corridor lined with old terminals and shattered glass. At the far end stood a central chamber, circular, dimly lit, filled with strange symbols carved into the walls. This is where it started, Lyra whispered. Jackson stepped forward. What happened here? Lyra's eyes clouded with memory. It began with small things, people forgetting names, missing birthdays. Then came the bigger losses and soldiers who forgot they had families, scientists who forgot why they studied the stars. Talia looked around. And this place? What was it? Lyra touched the wall. The carvings glowed faintly under her fingers. A research site. We found something buried deep beneath the surface, something that woke up when we tried to study. Kiran scanned the room. You mean you accidentally opened a door? Lyra nodded. We didn't know what we were dealing with. We thought it was alien tech, a signal, maybe even a message from another world. But it wasn't a message. It was a whisper. A whisper? Jackson asked. Lyra turned to him. Not sound, not exactly, more like thoughts that weren't yours. At first they felt like dreams, beautiful ones, peaceful. But then the dreams changed. They became memories, not ours, but ones we believed anyway. Reyes looked grim. So people started thinking they were someone else? Lyra nodded. Yes. And worse. They stopped caring about who they really were. Silence filled the room. Talia finally spoke. That's how the colony fell. Not through war, not through disease, through forgetting. Lyra stepped toward the center of the chamber. This was the heart of it, the place where the Veilborn first reached into human minds. Jackson followed. Can they do it again? Lyra's voice grew heavy. They already have. Every time someone forgets who they are, every time a person loses hope, that's how the Veilborn grow. Suddenly the lights flickered. A low hum vibrated through the floor. Kiran checked his scanner. Something's happening. Energy levels spiking again. Lyra closed her eyes. They know we're here. Talia took a step back. Then maybe we should leave. No, Lyra said firmly. We need to understand them before they spread. Again, Jackson looked around. Is there anything left of the original signal? Anything we can use? Lyra walked to a cracked terminal. With careful hands, she activated it. The screen blinked, then showed a grainy image. A woman speaking softly. Her face was familiar. It was her, younger, happier. The video played. Day 42, the younger Lyra said. We've isolated the anomaly. It's not just a signal. It's intelligence. We don't know its origin yet, but it's responding to us. It feels lonely. The screen flickered. Today, I volunteered to interface directly. If this works, we might be able to communicate. If it doesn't, she smiled. Tell Jackson I'll see him soon. The video cut out. Jackson stared at the screen, stunned. Lyra turned to him. I made a choice, to connect, to understand. And they pulled me in. Talia swallowed hard. And now you're bringing them back. Lyra shook her head. No. I'm giving humanity a chance to fight them. Kieran frowned. How? Lyra looked at each of them. By remembering. By holding onto who we are. That's the only weapon the Veilborn fear. Reyes crossed his arms. Sounds simple? It is, Lyra said. But also the hardest thing to do. Outside, the wind howled. Something was stirring beneath the surface. The Veilborn were waking, and this time, humanity was ready. The hum beneath the floor grew louder, like a heartbeat buried deep in the planet's bones. Dust fell from the ceiling as the chamber responded to their presence. Lyra stepped back from the broken terminal. Her skin shimmered faintly, like heat rising from stone. I can feel them, she whispered. They're reaching for me. Jackson moved closer. Can they take you again? She met his eyes. Not if I hold on. Talia looked around nervously. We should leave this place now. Kieran was already scanning the walls. This whole room is some kind of interface. It's not just where they came in, it's how they stayed. Captain Reyes kept his hand near his holster. Then we destroy it. Lyra shook her head. No. If we do that without understanding, we lose everything. The Veilborn don't just erase memories, they absorb them. Everything we've learned, everything we've built, they could use it against us. Jackson frowned. You mean they learn from us? Lyra nodded. Yes. Every time someone forgets who they are, they grow stronger. And now that I'm here, I'm like a door. Kieran swallowed hard. A door to what? To humanity itself. Silence filled the room. Talia finally broke it. So what do we do? We can't just stand here. Lyra walked slowly toward the center of the chamber. The symbols on the walls began to glow, soft at first, then brighter. I have to go inside, she said. Jackson stepped forward. Inside what? The memory. Before anyone could stop her, Lyra placed both hands on the central console. Light burst through the room. Everyone shielded their eyes. Then, silence. When Jackson opened his eyes, he wasn't in the chamber anymore. He stood in a city that didn't exist. Tall towers made of light and thought. People walking with no faces, speaking in voices that changed every word. Lyra stood beside him. Real this time. Not glowing. Just human. This is my memory, she said softly. Or what's left of it. Jackson looked around. Where are we? A place the Veilborn built inside my mind. A copy of Solace 9 before it fell. Talia's voice echoed behind them. Wait. Did we all come here too? They turned to see Talia, Kieran, and Reyes stand. Ding nearby, confused but present. Kieran looked down at himself. How are we even here? Lyra answered. Because I remembered you. That's how this works. Memory creates reality. Suddenly the sky above them darkened. A shadow spread across. The city. Not a thing, but a feeling. Loss. Forgetting. People around them stopped moving. Their faces blurred. Then vanished. Reyes drew his weapon. What the hell is happening? Lyra's voice was steady. They know we're here. Ground trembled. Buildings flickered between real and gone. Jackson grabbed Lyra's arm. Can they hurt us? They can make us forget why we came, she said. That's worse. Talia clenched her fists. Then we remind each other. Kieran nodded. Tell. Stories. Hold on to what matters. Lyra smiled. Exactly. She closed her eyes and spoke into the air. My name is Lyra Kyle. I was born on Earth. My favorite color is blue. I love music. I once danced under the stars with Jackson Rowe when we were both too young to understand what it meant. The city steadied. Jackson stepped forward. My name is Commander Jackson Rowe. I joined the United Earth Fleet because I wanted to find lost things. I found you. Talia followed. Talia Vex, engineer. I never cried when my parents died, but I did later, alone, while fixing a broken engine. Kieran took a breath. Kieran Miles, data analyst. I used to write poems no one ever read. Reyes crossed his arms. Captain Dane Reyes, soldier. I still carry my sister's dog tags, even though she died 20 years ago. The city brightened. The shadow recoiled. Lyra opened her eyes. It works. Jackson looked around. Memory fights them. Lyra nodded. Every time we remember who we are, we weaken them. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the space. Smooth, calm, and wrong. Why resist? Why hold on? Let go. Be free. A figure appeared. Tall, faceless, shifting like smoke. The Veilborn had arrived. Lyra stepped forward. You tried to take me, you failed. The figure tilted its head. You are incomplete, you are divided, you belong to us. Lyra stood tall. No, I belong to myself, to my people, to my past. Jackson stepped beside her, and we're not going anywhere. The Veilborn raised an arm, and the world began to fade. But Lyra smiled. Let them try. The shadow surged again. Not a physical force, but a pressure on the mind. It whispered doubts into their thoughts like wind through broken glass. Let go. You do not need memory. You are free without it. Jackson felt his knees weaken as old regrets clawed at him, moments he had buried deep. A mission gone wrong. A friend lost. A promise broken. Lyra's voice cut through the haze. Hold on to who you are. She reached out and grabbed Jackson's hand. Her touch was grounding. Real. Talia clenched her fists. This is how they fight? By making us forget ourselves? Kieran nodded, eyes wide. It's psychological warfare. They don't need weapons, just confusion. Reyes gritted his teeth. Then we give them clarity. Lyra turned to face the shifting form of the Veilborn. You think humans are weak because we remember, but that's what makes us strong. The figure tilted its head. Memory is pain. Memory is loss. Lyra stepped forward. And it's also hope, love, identity. Suddenly, the world around them flickered. The city of light and thought cracked, then reformed. Stronger this time. The team stood together, their presence reinforcing the space. We're still here, Jackson said firmly, because we remember each other. The Veilborn raised both hands. A wave of silence crashed over them. Talia gasped. Her fingers flew to her head. I can't remember my name. Kieran staggered. What am I doing here? Reyes dropped to one knee. My sister. I can't see her face. No, Lyra shouted. Don't let go. She ran to Talia first. Your name is Talia Vex. You built an engine from scrap parts when you were 12. You hate cold mornings, but you always drink coffee anyway. Talia blinked, then she smiled. I remember. Lyra turned to Kieran. You're Kieran Miles. You write poems about stars and never show anyone. You have a soft spot for old Earth music. His eyes cleared. Yes, I do. Finally, she took Reyes's trembling hands. You are Captain Dane Reyes. You swore to protect people after your sister died. You carry her dog tags every day. He looked up at her, breathing hard. Then he nodded. Thank you. Jackson watched, heart pounding. He realized something. They couldn't win by fighting the Veilborn with weapons, but they could win by holding onto who they were. We need to broadcast this, he said suddenly. Everyone turned to him. What if we share our memories? Jackson continued. Not just among us, across all human space? If the Veilborn feed on forgetting, then remembering becomes our weapon. Kieran's eyes lit up. We can use the signal from Solace 9. Boost it. Turn it into a message that reminds everyone who they are. Talia grinned. A psychic firewall made of identity. Lyra nodded. Yes, we remind humanity of its history, its culture, its stories. We flood the Veilborn with too much meaning to erase. Rhea smirked. That'll piss them off. Lyra looked back at the Veilborn. You wanted to take us. Now we're going to take something from you. The shadow recoiled slightly. You cannot stop what has already begun. Jackson stepped beside Lyra. Watch us. They returned to the chamber beneath Solace 9, now pulsing with energy. The ancient terminal flickered to life as Kieran connected. Their ship systems. We'll need a source, Talia said. Something powerful enough to carry the signal across space. Lyra closed her eyes. Use me. Jackson frowned. What? I've been touched by them, she said. I carry fragments of the Veilborn within me. If you link me to the system, I can amplify the signal, make it strong enough to reach every human colony. Rhea shook his head. That could destroy you. Lyra smiled gently. If it saves everyone else, it's worth it. Jackson stepped forward. There's got to be another way. There isn't, she said softly. But I won't be alone. She looked at each of them. You gave me back myself. And now I'm giving that gift to everyone. Talia wiped her eyes. Stubborn alien girl. Kieran chuckled. Yeah, just like the old days. Reyes placed a hand on her shoulder. Make it count. Lyra stepped to the console. With a deep breath, she placed her hands on the interface. The chamber lit up. The signal began. Across the stars, humans paused as a strange warmth filled their minds. Memories flooding back, identities solidifying, songs, names, faces, histories, all woven into a single message. Remember who you are. And the Veilborn screamed. On Mars Colony Prime, a child who had never known Earth suddenly remembered her grandmother's lullaby, not because she had heard it, but because it was hers. On Europa Station, a scientist who had long forgotten his native language found himself writing poetry in Old Hindi, tears streaming down his face. In orbit around Proxima Centauri, a warship captain paused mid-battle when an old Earth song played in his mind. We are the champions. And he laughed out loud. The signal had spread. It wasn't just sound. It was memory. It was identity. And it was everywhere. Back on Solace 9, Lyra stood at the center of the chamber, hands pressed to the ancient console. Her body glowed faintly, pulses of energy running through her veins like rivers of light. Jackson watched her closely, heart pounding. Lyra, he said gently, are you okay? Her eyes were closed, her voice soft but strong. They're fighting back. Outside the ruins, the sky darkened unnaturally. Clouds swirled into shapes that didn't belong to nature. The air grew heavy with silence. Then came the scream, not from any mouth but from thought itself. The Veilborn were resisting. Their presence twisted the world around them. Buildings flickered between real and gone. Time stuttered. People staggered as memories blurred. Talia grabbed her head. It's like they're trying to rewrite us again. Kieran clutched the control panel. We need to stabilize the signal. Fast. Captain Reyes drew his sidearm, useless against what they faced, but it made him feel like he could fight. Tell me we have a plan. Lyra opened her eyes. They shimmered like starlight. We already won, she whispered. Now we just have to finish it. Jackson stepped beside her. How? She looked at him. We remind them what it means to be human. Jackson frowned. You mean more memories? Lyra shook her head. No, stories. Talia blinked. What kind of stories? All of them, Lyra said. Everyone we've ever told, every myth, every legend, every song and poem and tale passed down through generations. Kieran's eyes widened. Of course, culture is identity. If we flood the Veilborn with too many meanings, too many truths, they can't erase us. Reyes smirked. So we drown them in history? Lyra smiled. Exactly. Jackson nodded. Let's do it. With a few quick commands, Kieran accessed the ship's data core, a massive archive of human culture collected over centuries. He linked it to the signal. The chamber pulsed. Then, across human space, something changed again. Old myths returned to forgotten colonies. Forgotten languages echoed through cities. Children learned stories their parents had never told them. A colony on Titan relearned the legends of King Arthur. On Alpha Centauri 4, a lost version of Shakespeare's Hamlet played in a theater that hadn't opened in decades. Even aboard alien trading ships, humans sang songs of Earth and others listened, curious, moved. The Veilborn screamed again, not in rage, in confusion. Too many stories, too much meaning, too many identities. They couldn't consume what refused to be erased. Inside the chamber, Lyra gasped. Her glow brightened. They're breaking apart, she whispered. Talia looked at the screen. Energy levels dropping fast. Kieran grinned. They can't handle it. We're too messy, too full of meaning. Jackson turned to Lyra. You did it. She smiled weakly. We did it. Suddenly the ground shook violently. The Veilborn were collapsing, but not quietly. Their final act was chaos. Above them, the ruins cracked. Dust fell like snow. Lights flickered wildly. Reyes shouted, We need to move. Now. Lyra pulled away from the console. Her body trembled, but she stood tall. I'm still here, she said softly. Jackson caught her before she fell. Together, the team ran for the exit, the chamber behind them crumbling into darkness. As they reached the surface, the sky cleared. The wind blew clean. Solace. 9 was silent once more. But this time, it wasn't the silence of death. It was the silence of peace. Humanity had remembered who it was, and the Veilborn were gone. Jackson stood at the edge of the ruins, looking out over the broken world that had nearly been erased. The wind was calm now. The silence no longer felt like a warning, just peace. Behind him, the Endeavor rested on the cracked landing pad, its hull reflecting the morning light. The crew had returned safely, bruised but alive. And humanity? Humanity remembered who it was. Talia worked near the ship, running systems checks with quiet focus. Kieran sat nearby, scribbling something in an old notebook, his first poem in years. Captain Reyes leaned against the ramp, watching the horizon like a man who had seen ghosts and lived to tell about them. And Lyra, she stood beside Jackson, barefoot in the dust, her skin still faintly glowing. You did it? He said softly. Lyra smiled. We did. Jackson looked at her, really looked at her. She wasn't the same girl who had vanished 3 years ago. But she wasn't lost either. She had changed, yes, but not in the way the Veilborn had wanted. She had grown. I thought I'd never see you again, Jackson whispered. Lyra turned to him. I told you I'd come back. He chuckled. Yeah, well, I didn't expect you to bring an alien mind along for the ride, she laughed. A real warm sound, the kind that made the world feel right again. They stood in silence for a moment before she spoke again. I can't stay. Jackson's smile faded. What? Lyra looked toward the sky. My work here is done, but the Veilborn might return. If they do, someone needs to be watching. He shook his head. You don't have to go alone. She touched his arm gently. Maybe not forever, but for now? Yes. Jackson swallowed hard. Where will you go? Lyra shrugged. Out there. She gestured toward the stars. There are other colonies. Other worlds, maybe others like me. Jackson nodded slowly, then he asked, Will we see you again? She smiled. Yes. How do you know? Because humans don't forget, she said. Not when they try. Jackson looked away for a second, then back at her. Then let me come with you. Lyra's eyes softened. You have a duty here. Your people need you. So do yours. She tilted her head. I am human, Jackson. Just more than I was. He finally smiled. Stubborn as ever. She stepped closer. That's why you love me. Jackson froze. Lyra blinked. Did I say that out loud? He grinned. Yeah, you did. She blushed. Actually blushed. And looked down. Jackson took a deep breath. Then I'm saying this out loud too. I'm not letting you go without knowing you'll come back. Lyra met his eyes. I will. Outside the ruins, the sun rose higher. Light spilled across the land, touching everything like a promise. Back aboard the Endeavor, Talia finished her last check and walked over. We're ready to leave orbit, she said. Commander? Jackson looked at Lyra one last time. She kissed, his cheek gently. Go. Lead them. He nodded. Take care of yourself, Lyra Kale. She saluted him playfully. You too, Commander Rowe. As the ramp closed behind him, Lyra watched the ship lift off into the sky. Her heart ached, but she smiled, because she knew what they had done. Across human space, colonies were healing. People were remembering. Songs, stories, languages, traditions. All of it had returned, stronger than before. The Veilborn had tried to erase humanity. Instead, they had reminded them of who they were. And so, Earth and its children united like never before. A new alliance formed, the human conquered, not built on power or politics, but on memory, culture, and shared identity. Years passed. Children grew up hearing the story of the woman who came back from the stars, whispering, I came for you. Some believed she was legend, others knew better. And far beyond the edges of known space, a lone traveler drifted among the stars. She wore simple clothes. She carried few things, but she carried many memories. And every once in a while she would hear a voice on the wind, a song, a poem, a story, and she would smile. Because somewhere, someone remembered her, and that meant she was never truly gone.